So, without further ado, I'm very happy to welcome our first guest for the evening. Lisa Casey is the owner of a shop called The Painted Pineapple right here in Moncton, which specializes in selling paint formulated for furniture and cabinetry. The shop strives to help customers reimagine things they currently own so that these items aren't discarded in favor of buying new. With a background in art and design from NASCAD and continuous professional development, Lisa has built a life that enables her to rescue old furniture and give it a new life. That's why we thought it would be great if she could show us how. So Lisa, tell us about this shop.
Wonderful. Well, thanks for having me. So our store is a little boutique. It's on Bonaccord Street in Moncton, and we're coming into our 6th year. And basically when you go in, it's in an old house. So other than the paints, we carry also a curated selection of home decor and some gift and some little things that just to inspire and delight. And with our paint, we actually carry a couple of brands that are internationally recognized. So they're sold all over the world. Very good quality, high adhesion paints, formulated specifically for furniture.
Sure.
And I guess the biggest difference or the biggest bonus or benefit we can offer our customers is not only in selling the paint, but the fact that we actually use the paint ourselves. So we're painters. Right. And so if you come in and you've never touched a project before, we can help you troubleshoot, walk you through from beginning to end, and hold your hand throughout the process. So you're never, stuck on your own wondering why something isn't turning out the way you want it to.
Might even be, there might be hope for someone.
There's someone like you, absolutely. Perfect. There's hope for everybody, and there's nothing sandpaper can't fix.
Great.
So yeah, so that's so what I'd like to do is kind of walk you through kind of who we are, how we can help if you are interested in refurbishing.
Great. Thank you.
And yeah, so we've got some slides here. So we're going to go through talking about our shop and our expertise, which I kind of touched on. That's just a shot of the outside of the store. When we talk about refurbishing, we wonder why we would even want to do it. Some people think, is it too big of a job? What is it? So oftentimes our pieces can be, it might cost less actually to refurbish something that you have instead of going out in favor of buying new. So look at what you have. What you own oftentimes is better than what you're going to get in the marketplace right now. There's an awful lot of composite material, and for older pieces, right up through the 80s, there was still a lot of manufacturing in Canada being done and a lot of really good solid pieces of furniture out there. You can express yourself with color and style and really create kind of your Pinterest dreams in your house with paint. So these are all reasons why you may want to consider. And one of them that's really important to us and to ECO360 is the fact that we're not putting things in landfill. If we can keep them even just a little bit longer, we're such a disposable society today.
Terrible.
It really is, and we see it a lot in fashion and in home decor and furniture, where things are being manufactured inexpensively. So it doesn't cost us a lot to buy new. So in effect, we don't really put a lot of value on those things, and it's easy to kind of quench that desire to want to bring new into our houses all the time. So we're trying to just kind of slow that cycle down a little bit and try to incorporate what you have and make it look fresh and beautiful. And that's really our raison d'etre.
Right.
So a lot of people come to us, I have my notes, a lot of people do come to us and they'll either have pieces in their house that are, they fit right now. For instance, like they've invested in a beautiful bedroom set 30 years ago, but it just is looking a little bit tired and dated. You could have a family heirloom that you've got and, it's a beautiful piece, but it doesn't certainly fit anymore. You can also be looking for something very specific to fit a need that you don't have currently. And instead of looking new, you might be looking to Facebook Marketplace, Kijiji, thrift stores, and auctions and things like that. So I do want to go over a few experiences that we've had. When we first started sourcing furniture, we used to follow the auctions and go crazy. We would just buy everything or buy on Marketplace, sight unseen. And so I just want to show you some things if you are sourcing this first one here is me smelling a drawer. A lot of times, especially older furniture, can either smell like mothballs, it can have been stored somewhere where maybe rodents have lived in it, which we've seen. Lots of smokers' homes, things where, and the wood is porous, so it really grabs the scent. And it can be fixed. It's just that, do you want to invest that time? And because it does cost a little bit more money and a little more time to fix that.
Okay.
The next thing when you're looking for pieces is whether you want to look for real wood or MDF. And a misnomer, a lot of people will say, oh yeah, it's real wood, it's heavy. And I'm just showing you in this one that sometimes, you know, a wood piece doesn't necessarily weigh as much as a manufactured piece.
Sure.
You also want to look for things that might be, like right here I'm showing you the back of this. You can kind of see that the wood is all the way around, as opposed to this piece, which, as I'm pulling out the drawer there, you can see that it's made of composite. Right. So that's an MDF piece, obviously, which can still be painted. If it fits in your space, this piece actually was a girlfriend's that she wanted me to redo. It fits in her room. She knows it's not a quality piece, but it fits, right?
It might have an impact on durability.
Absolutely.
But if it fits, it fits.
Absolutely. Yeah. So don't discard those pieces just because they're not, wonderfully quality mahogany pieces. This one, a lot of times you'll think a piece is real wood as well, which is really only important if you think you're going to stain it. But this one is actually a laminate, real wood on the side and laminate on the top. The other thing you want to check for is drawers that open, doors that slide,
Right.
cabinets that don't have broken hinges, the bottoms of your drawers and the runners, because that, again, it can be fixed, but it is an expense, and especially if you're starting out, those are things that may just throw you off your game, and it just may discourage you, and you're like, well, this isn't working, so again, I'm going to discard it and move on. So things that you can try, color is the simplest thing. So very easy. You do not have to strip and sand and take finishes off of furniture to paint them. You can just put a color on it. Very simple, fairly inexpensive. The other thing too is hardware. A lot of times you can even just take your hardware off and spray paint it and it will give it a new look. So if you've got, old brass handles or something that are looking a little bit 70s, spray them black and put them back on, and it does help.
Nice.
We also carry things in the shop that you can use to cover up damage. You could even go, to a hardware store and get molding. This is an applique that you could put on. So if you've got surface scratches or dings that you aren't feeling comfortable filling, there's decorative things that you can add on to your furniture as well.
You said you don't need to
take the finish off?
No,
not at all. A lot of people think that if they have a varnished piece, that they have to take that off but the paint that we work with is formulated to adhere to pieces like that.
Are there surfaces that you can't paint on?
Actually, not really, to be honest.
Really?
With the right preparation, you can pretty much paint on anything.
Interesting.
And that's where, it's great if you can bring a piece in to show us. If it's a drawer or a door, even a photograph, sometimes we can tell by looking at it. Just from years of working with things, we can look at the design and we pretty much know. But yeah, there really isn't too much that you can't paint. So other things you can do, this one here shows something that's quite common from 70s and 80s furniture. We get a lot of people that say, I have this great set, but it looks, like grandma's set, and I don't want it anymore. I want something modern. So you can fill all of these carvings and engravings and things.
Right.
You can wallpaper, and the one on the end here, we've actually added feet onto it. So sometimes you can alter a piece by taking something off, like those little, how sometimes you'll have those little curly cues on things.
Sure.
You can knock those out, add feet on something, and it really changes the personality and the era of it sometimes as well. But the first thing you have to do, so getting back to your question of you don't have to strip or sand anything before the paint will adhere to it, the first thing is you have to clean it. Extremely, extremely important to, regardless of what a lot of paint companies will say in their marketing, that you don't have to prep anything, you just slap the paint on it. That would be, in an ideal world, if you've got a really clean substrate, that's fine. But at the very least, we're going to have to clean it. And I'm just going to show you in this video here how this is a product that we use. It's a TSP alternative. Have you ever heard of TSP before?
TSP, nope.
No? So some people have and some haven't, but it's trisodium phosphate. You can get it in any hardware store, and it's used to paint or to prep surfaces like even walls.
Okay.
It degreases basically.
Sure.
So what you want to do is before you put paint to anything, you want to make sure that it doesn't have any buildup of oil, grease, grime, because your paint is really only going to stick to that.
Okay.
If that ever wants to let go, the grease lets go, it takes the paint. So it's often not the paint's fault. it's your cleaning.
Okay.
So super duper important. So this is an oak door. Kitchen doors, we talk people through kitchen doors every day. This is a definite money saver. It takes a lot of time to paint a kitchen, but you can absolutely save those doors. Second step, you can scuff sand a little bit, and this is not taking the finish off. You're going to see in this, it takes me, not even a minute to scuff that, and then basically wipe back the dust.
Okay.
And that is now considered ready to paint.
Right.
So
the scuffing will just help the paint.
it helps the paint. It also helps sometimes if you've loosened something up with your TSP, it'll help get it off.
Sure.
So it's just that little extra step.
Okay.
Something that we like to know if you're going to come in and ask us if you can paint something. So you've got a piece, you want to paint it. You think it might be wood, but you don't know. It might be laminate, it might be melamine. There's different applications to prepare each surface. So at the very least, you're going to want to clean it. This one, we're actually showing, this is a product that we sell. Fusion Mineral Paint carries a product called Ultra Grip. And if you're working with laminates or high gloss things, manufactured furniture, it is a good idea to add this first because it will really bond to the surface. It's water-based.
Okay.
So that's one thing about our products. They're all water-based products,
Nice.
and there are no VOCs or no off gases that come from the drying of these.
Nice.
So easy on the environment. This is a second situation if you're painting wood. In this case, it's an oak door, notorious for bleed through.
Right.
And what bleed through is, if you're not familiar, is tannin in the woods on things like oak, certain redwoods as well, like mahogany and cherry, that you'll get that kind of migration of color will come through and it'll stain.
Sure.
And it doesn't matter if you paint that like 100 times. I used to try, it'll keep coming through. So this is really the best way to mitigate that.
That's kind of a seal.
It is. It's the shellac in it that seals it in.
Okay.
And then your third situation you may come across is that you want to stain the wood. That's a little more advanced than just painting, because then you're going to be into either some chemicals for stripping, you're going to need more tools, an orbital sander, scrapers, things like that. But it absolutely can be done, and we can walk you through that. It's a very popular look now to do stained tops and painted bottoms on things, and it does look quite nice. Again, getting back to changing hardware, something very, very easy to do. A lot of people will, believe it or not, come in and say, I have a piece and I'd love to do this look, but the hardware doesn't suit that look. So, what can I do? And it's like, you're not stuck, change the hardware on it. They all do come in different sizes. So sometimes you can't easily find something that's going to match up those holes. But the filling is super duper easy. This piece has an old style handle on it.
Sure.
And we're just going to show you how quick and easy it is to swap these out. Obviously, you're going to take off the old, and there's a little jig that you can buy at the hardware store. It's going to come up next, and it'll show you how to measure your holes so that you're not stuck with a ruler and a level and trying to get your holes straight. Just filling that. This is the little jig right here.
Look at that.
Yeah, super duper easy. They're inexpensive. And then you basically just match up your handle width, find your center, mark your holes, drill it.
Wow.
And it's pretty simple. Like I say, you can really change up the look of something by changing the hardware on it.
Boom, boom.
Yep.
That easy.
That easy. Obvious.
Even I think I could handle.
You could handle that for sure. I mean, this one again, you need a drill, right? So
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't do it by hand. But, yeah.
but yeah, so that changes that up to something more modern. Another thing, oftentimes to change the look of something and modernize it if you want, is if you've got an older piece that has either carvings in it or dings and scratches, easily filled. If you're painting and not staining, you can just use wood filler. So your basic carpenter's wood filler, I've just taken like a plastic putty knife and I'm just going to fill that in. And again, you know, looks like hummus. Doesn't taste like hummus, I'm sure. But super easy, right? And that's just a quick fill. And that's going to take that dated kind of 30s, 40s piece into a flat surface. This one is a bit bigger of a fix. It's an older piece, but it is a piece of wood laminate that's actually broken off the corner. So I'm going to use this wood filler. It's a little bit thicker. You can use that, or Bondo is another product that's often used in the furniture repair industry. And it fills bigger gaps in. And if I have any tips about filling anything, is to not trust your eyes, trust your fingers. So as you're sanding back after, run your hand along it. And if you feel there's a ridge there, when you paint it, you will see it. But sometimes you sand and you're like, whoa, I did a great job on that. And no.
You did not. Okay.
Exactly. So this is just a little sneak peek of our shop. We carry a lot of the products. If we don't have them in store, we will recommend what's best to use for you. Like I say, everybody that works in our store is well versed. They know what they're talking about. They've done it themselves, and very happy to walk you through it. So here's just a little sneak peek. You can see we've got other things in there besides paint, and this is our little consultation area. So that's where you would bring something back, and we're featuring our Fusion Mineral Paint right here. We also carry Annie Sloan Chalk Paint, and like I say, both are very well-respected, durable paints for kitchens, bathrooms, all furniture. Yeah, it's not just a lot. I think a lot of people, it's a misnomer that they think it's a craft, when in actuality, like a craft paint, like it's a fun project, but it's actually very durable. And quite easy to use. You just have to follow the steps. And anybody can really learn to do this. It's not complicated. Follow the steps.
Challenge accepted.
Challenge accepted. Yeah. So a lot of people actually have come in and wanted to just fix something they have out of need, and they've learned to love doing it so much that they're now doing it as a secondary income, or they're painting for friends because it just gets them out of their head, and it gives you something to do, and it's extremely rewarding.
Sure.
So.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Well, thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Just a reminder to everyone, you can drop some questions for Lisa in the Q&A at the Q&A button, and we'll be selecting some questions from that in a few minutes. But I do have a few questions right now. Where did this whole idea come from? How did you get started doing this?
Well, I was lucky enough to have a friend who actually started it before I did. She had started a store. It was in Lower Coverdale, and I was living in Toronto at the time. And I've always done, I have a background in art, and I've always loved decor and always painted from the time I was about 15 onward. And I've also had a lot of retail experience. So my girlfriend had started selling paint, retailing paint, and doing classes and things. And her business trajectory just sort of changed.
Sure.
She started doing other things and coaching and working with as a brand ambassador. So she was looking to either sell her business or retire and close the doors.
Okay.
And when she told me that, everything in my heart just exploded. I thought, this is absolutely what I've done. It's all leading to doing this.
Beautiful.
And I've got retail in my blood, and so we moved. We bought her business.
Wow.
We moved it into Moncton from Lower Coverdale, and we've been there for 6 years.
Beautiful.
And
now I have to ask.
yes.
Where does the name come from? Painted Pineapple.
We get that a lot. So pineapple, if you're unaware, is the international symbol of welcome and welcoming people into your homes. In older times, you would present a pineapple in the house. And
not
because
know
they
that.
were so rare at one time, you could even rent them for parties and whatnot. So if you were an aristocrat and you wanted to have people over for a soiree, you would actually rent a pineapple to present. And then if the pineapple was very fresh, you had a lot of money. If it started to deteriorate, it would still last 2 or 3 days, and it would be rented amongst different households, actually.
Wow.
So anyhow, it is a symbol of welcome. You are coming into our home. We live on site, actually, at the boutique. It's 2 houses, but we live there. So we're welcoming you into our home, and also we want you to create your own welcome and your own space with paint, and create your own personality, express yourself through color.
Okay.
So hence the painted pineapple.
Beautiful, thank you.
Thanks.
We have a question from a viewer who asks, do you offer workshops for decoration or furniture?
We have in the past. We used to do a lot of workshops, and then they kind of came to a halt when COVID happened, of course, and the space that we used to use has now been converted into more retail. So good question, and I get asked that every day, and I am looking into doing more. I need to find a secondary location, so I'll put that out there if anybody has
Right.
space that they're willing to rent to me to actually hold workshops. I love to teach, and people are always so joyous when they leave and they've created something in a short amount of time.
Great.
So
great. Well,
keep following us.
here's hoping that Lisa
Yeah.
finds that space. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having
and
me.
enlightening us on this way to give new life to older furniture. Thanks a lot to Lisa Casey, and you can visit that shop right here in Moncton, the Painted Pineapple. And now we'll move on to our second guest of the evening. Renee Duham is an appliance repair technician and content creator with almost 1 million followers across TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook. People from all over are asking her for advice, from BuzzFeed to all recipes. So we thought we would too. Welcome to our webinar series, Renee.
Hello, thank you so much for having me.
It's great to have you here. So tell us about what you do.
So I am an appliance repair tech. And I mean, I guess, should I just show my slides then?
You
'Cause
can
that
get right in
explains it,
there,
actually.
sure.
All right, so my name is Renee. I'm an appliance repair tech. I live in Connecticut in the United States. I've been an appliance repair technician for 6 years and a content creator for 2 years. And as Eve said, I have over 950,000 followers across 3 platforms currently. I have been featured in Popular Mechanics, on BuzzFeed, and also All Recipes, in addition to a few other places as well. And last year, I was also the first influencer to be personally invited to tour Procter and Gamble headquarters. And Procter and Gamble makes pretty much all of the laundry, dishwasher, everything products you can imagine.
Right.
So Cascade is one of those brands. Most common question I get asked is how I got into appliance repair. So the answer to that is pretty straightforward, and at the same time not. The answer is luck, friends, and perseverance. Before becoming an appliance repair tech, I was working 4 part-time jobs simultaneously in order to make ends meet. I've worked in many different industries, everything from food service and retail, all the way to photography, professional face painting for about a decade. And I even worked in a kiosk in a mall as an ear piercer. Before becoming an appliance tech, the longest I had really stayed in any kind of career was under 2 years. I got the interview with this job because a friend recommended me. So they reached out and they said, "Hey, I know that you're looking for work, and I think this would be right up your alley." And they were correct. So when I went and got the interview, I got the interview because of the recommendation, and then I wound up getting the job, partly because of my customer service background, but mostly because I did a lot of Googling beforehand.
There we go.
Yeah, just in order to pass the qualification exam that they gave me. And when I passed the test, they were like, "Where did you learn all of this?" I'm like, "Well, I Googled it." They were impressed by what my kindergarten teacher, when I was 5 years old, described as my intrinsic motivation. So did 6 months of shadowing training. I still do ongoing manufacturer training. So I see each manufacturer that my company services usually once or twice a year. And 6 years later, still going strong. Lisa had said something earlier too that kind of resonated with me. She said that everything that she had done was kind of all leading to doing what she's doing now. And that's really how I feel about content creation as well, because even though obviously I have a passion for appliance repair, it feels like all of the things that I've done have just kind of led to this and me being here today and doing this with all of you.
Beautiful.
Yeah. So regarding what I'm going to be talking about today, I'm going to go over the best practices for using and caring for your appliances in a sustainable way. I'm going to go over some of the most common mistakes that people make with their appliances and what to do instead. I'm also going to show a few of my videos that I've made that are relevant to this and include some statistics, some information on it, on just how caring and maintaining for your appliances properly is beneficial to the environment and also to your wallet.
I'm
So we're going to
ears.
save some money, we're going to save the environment, and we're going to learn how to use appliances correctly.
Perfect.
Yeah. So first up is high efficiency washing machines. High efficiency washing machines, as opposed to non-high efficiency washing machines, they use 20% less electricity and 30% less water than non-high efficiency machines. So they are definitely saving you some money there. Front load is going to be best, and top load without an agitator is also pretty good. They are definitely gentler on your clothes than the kind that has that big agitator column in the center. And when used correctly, because I run into a lot of people thinking that high efficiency machines are not as good, they don't work as well. When they're used correctly, they can get your clothes just as clean as older washers. Plus, they're not going to wear out your clothes as quickly. They're not going to use as much water. They're not going to use as much electricity. So they really do save you money in the long run. When it comes to waste and how high efficiency washing machines can help with that in terms of using, being gentler on your clothes, North Americans send over 10 million tons of clothing to the landfill every year, and 95% of that could have been reused or recycled. So obviously, if you're not using your washing machine correctly and it's damaging your clothes, it's going to contribute to those numbers.
Wow, those numbers are staggering.
Oh yeah, for sure. So that's one of the biggest parts of my job is just education on how to correctly use machines, because a lot of people just don't read the manuals. I know I'm guilty of it too, but trust me when I say there is so much very, very useful information in your manuals that you would have no idea. And then that being said, I'm going to show you the most common reason why clothing and machines might be damaged. Okay. Very, very first one is going to be using too much laundry detergent. It's really, really common, and this is a video that I have that talks about that.
You're using too much laundry detergent. Too much laundry detergent. You only need 2 tablespoons. 2 tablespoons. My name is Renee. I'm an appliance repair tech, and I'm here to tell you the truth. If your washing machine is high efficiency, or HE, you should only be using HE detergent. HE detergent is extremely concentrated, and HE machines use less water, which means you don't need to use very much detergent. If you're a visual learner, a standard 1.5 ounce shot glass holds about 3 tablespoons of liquid.
But using more detergent means my clothes will get cleaner.
Oh, how do you know? If you use too much detergent, your machine doesn't know you use too much detergent, which means it's going to use the same amount of water to rinse as though you use the correct amount of detergent. So if you use too much, your clothes will never actually rinse out all the way. Ew. Additionally, if you use too much detergent regularly, it will eventually create a buildup on the inside of your machine and can cause parts to break. And if you've tried using 2 tablespoons and it doesn't seem to get your clothes clean, either you already have a detergent buildup, your machine is broken, or you're overloading it. So stop using so much detergent, save yourself some money, and get your clothes cleaner.
Boom.
It's one of my older videos. Clearly, I thought it was funny. So the very, very most common mistake that people make with washing machines is using too much detergent, because everybody wants to fill this guy all the way up to the top. I've heard some people have told me, I think the most amount I've ever heard somebody say that they use regularly is 6 of these filled to the top. It's a lot of detergent.
Yeah.
And a lot of people think, like I had mentioned in the video, more detergent means cleaner. But that's not always the case, because your washing machine has no idea if you use too much detergent. So if you're putting 6 capfuls of detergent into your machine,
right,
your machine's going to use the same amount of water to rinse as though you use just that 2 tablespoons. So if you're using too much, it can make your clothes duller because you're getting a buildup in your clothes. So it's going to make them not look as vibrant and as nice. It can also make them smell. It can make your machine smell as well. So usually what'll happen is people will use too much detergent. They'll feel like their clothes aren't getting clean. So they use more detergent because they think that's why their clothes aren't getting clean.
That's a
And then the
vicious
problem
circle,
just kind
yeah.
of continues until eventually it does wind up, and it can stain your clothes too. It does wind up causing a buildup in your machine as well. And then people will, their machine will break. They'll call me out, and I have to explain that the whole reason why all of this happened was because of the amount of detergent that they were using.
Wow.
So obviously, rather than using that much detergent, you only need about 2 tablespoons, 30 milliliters. Using less is absolutely going to get your clothes cleaner. One of the really common misconceptions too is that the smell of detergent is the smell of clean, but there's just a lot of perfumes.
Yeah.
So ideally, if your clothes smell like nothing, then they're clean. And you can always add like scent beads and things like that if you want to add the extra smells. But if you're only using detergent, your clothes shouldn't come out smelling strongly of detergent unless you're using too much. So another really common issue I run into is people loading their machines incorrectly.
Right.
If you are, and what I mean by that is if you are underloading, overloading, or if you're washing what's called a mixed load. The picture that I have in that slide right there is absolutely overloaded. You generally only want to load your machine about halfway to 3/4 of the way full. If you are overloading your machine, it can cause premature wear and tear if you are washing mixed loads. Mixed loads is like jeans and t-shirts together, like the heavy stuff and the light stuff,
Right.
all in the same load, just all thrown in together. If you are washing mixed loads, it can actually cause buttons, zippers, that kind of stuff to rub against the lighter clothing. And that's why a lot of times you'll get these little like mystery holes in your clothes, is because it's rubbing against each other. So you have that really heavy, heavy stuff mixed with your really light t-shirts and light fabric, and it's rubbing right against each other. So you're going to get too much friction, and it can damage your clothing as well. So it's going to damage your clothing. It can wear out your clothing or your machine. It can basically put too much stress on all of the parts on your machine, especially your shock absorbers.
Right.
Because when you wash a load of laundry that is overfull or underfull, it can just be off balance, similarly to the mixed loads as well. And that can wear out those shock absorbers very, very quickly. So in addition to that, if you have a flat plate agitator, so it's like top load washing machine that has the flat plate, those guys you want to load like a donut. And I have a video that explains exactly what I mean by that.
Why does this happen? Somebody explain to me why this happens.
Hi, my name is Renee. I'm an appliance repair tech, and I can tell you exactly why your towels do that in your top-load washing machine with a flat wash plate. So with top-load washing machines, most people are used to the old style that has the agitator column in the center. And that style has fins to move your clothes from left to right. And a lot of people think that there are 2 types of washing machines, front-load washing machines and top-load washing machines. And front-load washing machines are all the same and top-load washing machines are all the same. But they're not. So whereas a top-load washing machine with an agitator moves your clothes from left to right, the style with the impeller brings your clothes in and out of the center. As the plate rotates on the bottom, the drum is also turning in the other direction, which makes the water do like this. And that's how I can clean stuff without having the agitator in the middle. But that also means that if you cover the center with clothing, it's not going to work right because the water is still trying to do this and your clothes are all over it, and you got to load it like a donut with a hole in the center. Otherwise your towels and sheets will look like this.
And then that video just loops again back to the beginning, so you can see that it has the blanket or the sheet like billowed over the top,
Right.
Which is another really, really common thing that we see when people are loading that type of washing machine incorrectly.
I've been
In
guilty
addition
of that,
to
yeah.
loading, and I promise I'm not only going to talk about washing machines. Washing machines are just like the most commonly misused appliance. So rather than overloading, underloading, the goal is between halfway and 3/4 of the way full. So if you look at like the inside, the metal part of your drum, you can kind of just like gauge like a bit about halfway. And if you're filling a little bit more than halfway, totally fine. You just don't want to fill it all the way to the top, and you don't want to fill it just like a teeny tiny amount because it'll just shake and wear stuff out a little bit too soon. So another very common mistake that I see a lot of people making is using too many additives. And that's just kind of going back to people want their clothing to smell like the detergent or like the additives. And additives like scent beads are fantastic if you want to add a little bit of that perfume back into the clothes after they're clean. But you don't want to overdo it, because if you're overdoing it, it can kind of have the same effect as if you're using too much detergent.
Sure.
So in addition, using additives like fabric softener, like the scent beads, if you're using too many, it can increase the flammability of your clothing.
Whoa.
Because a lot of those guys, what they do, the entire purpose is to put a coating on your clothes.
Right.
So fabric softener, instead of actually softening your clothes, puts a coating in your clothing that makes it feel like it's softer. So you're not feeling soft fabric, you're feeling the buildup in your fabric.
Okay.
So they can certainly increase the flammability. It can also decrease the absorbency of fabrics, which is why fabric softener is not suggested to be used with things like towels or activewear, because you're not going to be able to absorb as much when you have that coating in your clothes.
Right.
And it can also cause a lot of skin issues because, of course, if you have all that stuff in your clothes, it's touching your body all of the time.
Sure.
A lot of people don't really think about that. I had a customer once that I went out to her house and I explained to her about detergent and fabric softener and everything. And this was actually the customer that was using 6 cups of detergent.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, so I explained everything to her, and then I came back because I don't remember what it was a few years ago, but I don't remember what it was damaged on her machine. But because of all of the detergent, all of the additives, her machine was damaged and I needed to order a part and come back. And when I came back, she had still been using a washing machine, not hers, but somebody else's. And she was using a lot less because of what I had told her. And she was like, I got to tell you, I've had skin issues my entire life, and you just figured out the problem.
Wow.
Because nobody thinks about the washing machine. Nobody thinks, you think, I'm using this is clean. But you have no idea that if you're overdoing it, it's counterintuitive. It's doing the opposite.
Wow. So you're also a dermatologist, basically.
Oh, yeah. Apparently, I can help. But it can cause all sorts of skin issues. It can exacerbate eczema. It can cause acne. It can even, like, as far as yeast infections, it can do all sorts of stuff because your clothing touches your entire body.
Right.
So definitely don't want to overdo it too much. And this is actually the back of a fabric softener bottle. It has the little warning right on it. It says liquid fabric softener can increase fabric flammability.
Wow.
So they try to tell people about it, but of course nobody reads the fine print. And so rather than using fabric softener, you can actually use distilled white vinegar, which is what I personally recommend. Fabric softener, like I said, puts a coating in your clothes. Distilled white vinegar is going to, it's mildly acidic, so it's actually going to fluff up the fibers of your clothes a little bit and will physically get them softer rather than putting a coating onto them. The other nice thing about distilled white vinegar is it can also help kind of flush everything out, because white vinegar is a natural antibacterial and antifungal.
Sure.
So if you're using that in your rinse cycle instead of fabric softener, it's going to help fluff up your clothes, and it can help keep your machine pretty clean as well. So definitely, I always suggest people use white vinegar. I use it myself, so I know that it's going to work. And it doesn't make your clothes smell like vinegar because it does wind up rinsing out with the rinse cycle.
Sure.
You only use same thing that you would with fabric softener, same amount.
Okay.
So
and you do
tiny
have
amount
detergent
will
in there as
work.
well, so.
What's that?
And you do have detergent as well, so.
Oh yeah, for sure. I'm just talking about
Yeah.
when you put fabric softener in,
Yeah,
it's usually
exactly.
at the
Yeah.
rinse cycle at
Yeah.
the end.
Yeah.
So that's where the vinegar would go as well.
Sure.
But it still gets flushed out with all the water. So it's
Okay.
your clothes don't smell like vinegar, but you get the benefits of what fabric softener would have done for you.
I will be trying that.
Oh yeah, for sure. So another, and this is going to be the final mistake that a lot of people make with washing machines. Then we'll get on to a different appliance. So never cleaning your washing machine. This is the picture. There is the underside of one of those flat agitator plates. So that's a lot of detergent buildup that was underneath it. Detergent, the way that works is it actually bonds to all of the dirt and bacteria and stuff and it gets flushed away in the rinse cycle. So when you have a detergent buildup, it's not just detergent, it's detergent and bacteria and dirt and everything.
Right.
And it can, like I was saying before, it can deposit on your machine, it can deposit on your clothes. A lot of times when people have a machine that has never been cleaned out before, and you have those little like brown flecks like you can see in that picture, those wind up getting on your clothes and they look like these little greasy, oily spots. You can usually tell if it's detergent because if you take a little bit of that and run it underwater, you'll get a little bit of bubbles, or it'll be like soapy. But yeah, that's what it can look like on the washing machine side of things. It can create a buildup in your washing machine. It can create a buildup in your clothes. And by doing that, it's also going to decrease the life of both your washing machine and your clothing. So you want to make sure that you're keeping up with cleaning it, which is very, very easy. You just need to use a washing machine cleaner about once a month. Washing machine cleaners, I'm going to show you a picture of a whole bunch of different ones that are really easy to find in a second, but you can get it in either a powder, a tablet, a pod form, all sorts of different varieties of it. Sometimes it's like a liquid. You just put that in your washing machine, follow the directions on the box or on the bottle, but usually they'll say to put it in the clean cycle or on the longest, hottest cycle on your washing machine just to loosen everything up. And you just run it through, and that's pretty much it. You do that once a month, nice and easy. And if you have a front load washing machine, they usually have a drain pump filter that you want to make sure that you're cleaning out once a month, because that's what all sorts of stuff will get stuck inside in order to prevent your machine from, getting clogged or draining. But if you have that filter, you need to clean it out. Otherwise it's going to get clogged anyway.
Right.
So these are a whole bunch of different types of washing machine cleaner. I know that these are all available in the US. I know at least a Fresh, I think Tide, OxyClean, like most of these, if not all of them, are also available in Canada as well. So I did look into that. A lot of these brands also make dishwasher cleaners too. So any of these brands, aside from like, obviously Tide's not going to make a dishwasher cleaner, but like a Fresh makes a dishwasher cleaner. Lemmy Shine makes one, Glisten makes one. So similar brands.
Okay.
So regarding dryers, high efficiency dryers are going to use 20% less electricity. They also have sensors to help prevent static on your clothes and to prevent overheating.
Okay.
So the sensors in your dryer, it's called a moisture sensor. And that's usually these two little bars inside of the dryer that every time wet clothing hits them, it's going to tell your dryer that everything is still wet. So that's the sensors in there versus older dryers that are not high efficiency. They only ran for like a certain amount of time. So they were always timed.
Okay.
High efficiency dryers also generally have a lower heat setting. A lot of times it's called ECO360 or something similar to that. What ECO360 does is it dries at a lower temperature for a longer amount of time, which actually uses less electricity than drying at a higher temperature for a shorter amount of time.
Right.
Which sounds a little bit weird, but the heater on a dryer uses more electricity than the motor does.
Sure.
So if the motor is running for a long amount of time versus the heater running for a long amount of time, it's going to use a lot less electricity in general.
Okay.
Number one issue that I see with people with dryers is not cleaning out the dryer venting. The dryer venting is the tube that your dryer uses to push all of the moisture outside. So that's the tube that connects your dryer to outside, basically. Dryer venting, if it's clogged, can increase your dry time by 60%.
No.
So if it seems like your clothing is taking longer and longer to dry in your dryer, very first thing you want to check is your dryer venting, because that is usually the issue.
Right.
It can also increase your electric use by 75%.
Wow. So how often should we clean that?
About once a year.
Okay.
So it's not super crazy, not anything weird, but it will absolutely save your electric bill. It's going to save your dryer and save your clothes as well.
Okay.
So very, very important to make sure that you're cleaning out that dryer venting. And it is also a very big fire hazard because the dryer venting gets clogged with lint.
Right.
And lint is just like all the itty bitty little fibers from your clothing, because your clothes are constantly shedding fibers. That's why, like if you move around in bright light, you'll see little dust particles. That's just like fibers coming off your clothes a lot of times. And that's what lint is. And it's very, very dry and it burns very, very well.
Right.
So if you're not cleaning out your dryer venting, you're basically coating that whole tube with very flammable material and then pumping hot air into that tube.
Wow. Okay.
So definitely want to make sure you're cleaning it out.
Yeah.
This is a report published by the National Fire Protection Association in June 2020. So they found that between 2014 to 2018, 32% of dryer fires were caused by a failure to clean the dryer venting and the lint screen. So overwhelming majority was just failure to clean. What I find interesting too is that 27% is they attribute to mechanical failure, but that's separate from electrical failure.
Okay.
So mechanical failure is more of a physical issue, and a lot of times if your dryer is not properly cleaned and maintained, it can result in a mechanical failure of the parts of the dryer. So they say 32% of the dryer fires were from failure to clean, but that 27% is absolutely part of it. It's related to the two.
Absolutely.
So it's just kind of emphasizing the importance.
What about dryer sheets?
So dryer sheets, I'm certainly going to mention that as well, but dryer sheets, same idea as fabric softener. And I certainly have alternatives to those as well, but dryer sheets, kind of same idea. They get really hot and that melts like a little waxy buildup in the sheet and it deposits on your clothes.
Right.
The same kind of idea.
So it gives you an idea of
is,
freshness, or it's kind of a fake freshness.
Exactly. And like a lot of people love that smell and I can so understand it. But like we have products like scent beads that are specifically designed so that you don't really have to use the dryer sheets. You don't really have to use all that stuff.
Okay.
So this is my my video about dryer venting.
Hello from your friendly neighborhood appliance repair tech. Today we're talking dryer venting.
This is the inside of a dryer that had poor venting. Look at how much lint buildup there is. This is a huge fire hazard. Watch till the end and I'll show you what I mean. If you do at least one load of laundry a week, you should be cleaning or replacing your dryer venting at least once a year. And if your venting is long, I would recommend hiring a professional to clean it for you so you don't damage it. Also, to prevent your dryer from overheating and breaking, you want your venting to be as short a route to outside as possible with as few bends as possible and no grate at the outside end of it. The original ending to this video had me lighting some dryer lint on fire in a controlled environment to demonstrate just how flammable it really is, but TikTok didn't like that and deleted the video, so here's a recreation. And just trust me on this, dryer lint catches on fire extremely easily and burns for a long time. A lint buildup in your dryer can literally catch fire and burn your house down. Side note, if you're not emptying the lint from your lint filter between every cycle, you're doing it wrong. And I do mean every single cycle.
Great job on that fire simulation there.
I know, it's very high tech.
Felt real.
Oh yeah. So obviously not managing the lint buildup in your machine, very, very big fire hazard. The pictures down there are a really, really bad dryer vent. And then the one on the right is actually a lint filter.
Whoa.
So that's a lint filter that people did not realize that they needed to take out. So the entire life of that machine, the lint had never been emptied.
Wow.
Yeah. So yeah, lint is the number one thing that people don't really take care of or they don't necessarily know about. And I was mentioning it earlier before we actually like went live and everything today, but I had a customer earlier today that video where I showed the inside of the dryer, my customer today, exact same situation. So inside of their dryer, completely coated in lint. Their particular issue wasn't that they weren't cleaning the venting, but that their venting has a whole lot of bends and it's very like squished back behind the dryer. So that's another really important thing that people need to pay attention to. You don't want your dryer venting to be more than about 35 feet long is what's like recommended for most situations. And you want it to have as few bends as possible. So this venting that I saw, the vent went 90 degrees at the back, down 90 degrees, 90 degrees, 90 degrees, up and out. So it was like this big U.
Okay.
And that can hold water, it can hold lint, it can hold all sorts of stuff, but your dryer's not going to be able to push everything out effectively.
Right.
So super, super important that you pay attention to your dryer's venting. If you're not managing the lint buildup, it is a fire hazard, obviously. It's going to increase your dry times, and it is going to overheat your machine. A lot of times when a dryer is squeaking, which is like a really common trope in movies and TV for some reason, if your dryer is squeaking, a lot of times that is the dryer pulley, which it's just got like a little bearing on it, and it'll start to squeak, usually when it gets overheated.
Okay.
So it's kind of like the first sign that you should probably have your dryer serviced is if it's squeaking. But even if you are, if you're not cleaning out that lint, it can also affect the machine too. So it's not just going to increase the dry time and increase the electric usage. It can damage the parts in your machine as well.
Sure.
So clean or replace dryer venting once a year, and make sure that you are emptying the lint off of the lint filter in between every single load of laundry. Your lint filter is kind of like the mouth of your dryer, and if your dryer can't breathe, it can't get all of that moisture out. So if you're not emptying the lint filter, it is going to take longer the next time you do a load of laundry because you have that lint blocking the screen.
Right on.
Another really, really common one is misunderstanding sensor dry. So in that picture, you can see that person is kind of pointing down to the little green highlighted bit. Those are the sensor bars that I was talking about.
Okay.
So not every single dryer has them looking the exact same, but that's what they look like on this particular model. So sensor dry it's usually most dryers are going to have either sensor dry or times dry. So times dry, very straightforward. It does it for however many minutes you set it for, and that's it. It's going to ignore the sensor if you have one, and it'll just do for however many minutes you tell it to dry. But the problem with that is that if you don't set it for enough time, at the end of the cycle, your clothes are not going to be dry. Or if you do it for too long an amount of time, when you remove all of the moisture from your clothes and it's like super, super, super dry, that's how you get static. So to avoid static, you want to try to dry your clothes at, just enough until they're dry instead of being like bone dry.
Right.
So the sensors on high efficiency dryers do that for you because every time, like I said, every time wet clothing hits those sensors, it lets the dryer know that stuff is still wet or stuff is dry. That's why a lot of times too, you'll see if you have a high efficiency dryer, you're doing a sensor dry and it has the minutes on it. It'll start off saying a certain amount of minutes, but that number might change throughout the cycle because it's just an estimate. So if it notices that stuff is drier than it thought it was supposed to be, it's going to take some of the minutes away. Or if your dryer venting, for example, is clogged, it might add minutes and you'll see that number go up.
Okay.
But, really, really common misconception. I go out to people's houses sometimes and they say, the numbers are jumping all around. My machine is broken. I'm like, it's doing what it's supposed to do.
Right. Okay. Okay. So I wasn't imagining things. My dryer was supposed to do that.
Yeah, the machines are getting smarter than us nowadays, and that's the problem.
Yeah, it's scary.
Oh, yeah. So if you don't understand how sensor dry works, obviously it can cause unpredictable performance of your dryer because you're not going to know what those minutes are doing. If you are doing like jeans and t-shirts together, and all of the t-shirts are hitting the sensor, and all of the jeans are not, your dryer's going to say everything is done drying before it's actually done because obviously jeans take a lot longer to dry than t-shirts do. So if you want to do a mixed load, it works better on a timed dry rather than doing it on the sensor dry. It can also damage your clothing because if you're doing mixed loads like the jeans and the t-shirts together, it might run for too long. And if it's running for too long, it can certainly, it can damage your clothes because it can overheat them. It can also make you have to have unnecessary service calls because, like I said, a lot of times I go out to people's houses just to tell them that everything's working totally fine. They just misunderstood how it worked. So you want to try not to dry mixed loads if you can keep like the same weight of the fabric together. So you don't have to do a load of all jeans or all t-shirts, but like if you can keep like all of the pants together, like all of your sweatpants and your jeans, those are about the same weight when they're wet anyway. They dry at very similar rates, so that's totally fine. If you are going to do a mixed load, you can use a times dry instead, and that should work totally fine. But it's definitely going to be better for your wallet, better for your machine and everything if you try your best to keep similar fabric types together, and if you try to use that sensor dry rather than a times dry.
Yeah, I never thought of that, but that's a useful tip.
Yeah. Well, that's exactly why it's in the slideshow. A lot of people don't think about it either. And then you had asked about dryer sheets. So dryer sheets they're going to make a buildup on your clothes just like fabric softener is. They also can make a buildup on your machine, and they can put a buildup on the sensor bars if you're not careful. Like if you're not paying attention, you're using too many dryer sheets. I've also seen dryer sheets get stuck to those sensor bars, and then the machine just runs and runs and runs and runs because the sensors are blocked, or it might do the opposite and just like say everything's done in a couple of minutes because it can't detect any moisture because there's a dryer sheet in the way. And it can also do the same thing fabric softener can do because it's putting a buildup in your clothes, so it can increase the flammability and decrease the absorbency of your clothing or your towels or stuff that's supposed to be absorbent.
Right.
And it's going to cost you more money because if you're using dryer sheets, they're not reusable. So you have to continue buying the dryer sheets in order for them to do what you need to get done. So rather than using dryer sheets, you can use wool dryer balls. They're going to give you the same effect. They're going to help tumble your clothes around. They're going to help stuff get dry. By tumbling your clothes around, it helps fluff them up a little bit. So it helps keep them soft, just like a dryer sheet would, just without the buildup. And if you are like me and wool makes you sneeze, they also make plastic dryer balls too. And, they're reusable. So even though, yes, they are plastic, at least it's not like all the chemicals and the plastic and the stuff that's in dryer sheets that you're continually having to purchase.
Right.
So you can certainly use the wool dryer balls, the plastic dryer balls, whatever works. I don't always recommend using the dryer sheets.
Great. Yeah, no, I'd heard about that, so I wanted to confirm with you. Thank you.
Oh, for sure. And now with dishwashers are really, really interesting to me. I actually, I was invited to Cascade and I did do a couple of sponsored videos, which I am going to show. I like working with Cascade because they focus on the education rather than the product a lot of times. So it's really, really great for me because that's what I like to do. So high efficiency dishwashers use 12% less electricity, but they do also use 30% less water than older dishwashers used to. They also have sensors, but the sensors for these guys are going to be what's called a turbidity sensor. So it's this little sensor that just kind of like sends light back and forth to see how much yuck is still left in your water.
Okay.
So it's literally measuring how dirty your water still is in order to figure out how long it needs to run. And similar to high efficiency, anything else pretty much, high efficiency dishwashers do run for a longer time than older dishwashers used to. Same idea as like dryers and washing machines. The reason why they run for longer is they are using less electricity. They don't get as hot as they used to. So they do run a little bit longer. A lot of that is for like energy standards and just for safety, because if they're getting really, really hot, it's not super, super safe. So high efficiency dishwashers are very, very helpful with that. They also, as opposed to hand washing, high efficiency dishwashers only use about 4 gallons of water total per cycle, versus if you're hand washing dishes, it uses 4 gallons of water every 2 minutes.
Wow.
And most people, they keep the water running when they're when they're hand washing their dishes. So I have my very first Cascade video that explains all of that.
Hi, my name is Renee. I'm an appliance repair tech, and this is Cascade Platinum. Did you know that by running your dishwasher, instead of washing dishes by hand, you save 20 gallons of water per day? When your kitchen sink is running, it's using up to 2.2 gallons of water per minute. The average person spends 11 minutes per day when hand washing dishes, and we're talking normally soiled dishes, not that one with the stuck-on pasta sauce from dinner 3 nights ago. And most people, when they hand wash dishes, leave the water running.
11 minutes of running water is equal to 24 gallons per day. Energy Star certified dishwashers, on the other hand, use less than 4 gallons of water per cycle. That's because your dishwasher will fill with a small amount of water, then circulate that water through the spray arms, also known as the spinny things, and drain out the dirty water. Rinse and repeat about 2 to 3 more times until your dishes are clean.
So that's why running your dishwasher every night with Cascade Platinum can save up to 20 gallons of water, even if your dishwasher isn't completely full. Check out the link in my bio for more water-saving facts.
I gotta say, those videos strike the perfect balance of fun and informative. Good job.
Well, that's my clear dishwasher door there too. It's actually a tool that I very, very rarely use. So I usually only use it for videos because I can, at this point, I can diagnose a lot of dishwasher things just by like listening to it.
Really?
Yeah, because I can hear which components are turning on and off or not turning on and off. But that's exactly what that clear dishwasher door is for. It's a tool for technicians you attach it to the front of the dishwasher to see if stuff is running properly. So it works really, really well for videos of explaining how a dishwasher works.
Nice.
So dishwashers, as opposed to like doing hand washing, most dishwashers can hold about 12 place settings worth of dishes. So one place setting is all of the dishes, cutlery, and glasses that you're going to use in like a 3-course meal.
Okay.
And that's going to be probably, if you're saying like a bowl, a plate, a fork, a knife, and a glass, that times 12. That's what your dishwasher can do.
Okay. Wow.
And dishwashers can do that with using only 4 gallons of water. So assuming, the one place setting is a plate, a glass, a bowl, and 2 utensils, that would take the average person about 15 to 20 minutes to hand wash. So if you leave the water running when you're doing that, that's about 30 gallons of water. Or if we want to go metric, it's about 113 liters.
Wow.
So it's a lot.
Yeah.
It's also going to be using electricity to heat the water, because you're using hot water, unless you're using really cold water to wash your dishes, but most people don't. So you're using electricity, you're wasting a lot of water. Dishwashers are going to use a lot less, and it's going to do a lot better for you. So 12 place settings, about 4 gallons in a dishwasher. It's going to dishwashers take longer, but they're going to get dishes cleaner with less effort, less water, and less electricity. Also going to use less detergent, because a lot of times when people hand wash dishes, they are constantly putting more soap on a sponge or on whatever it is you're using to wash.
Right.
Versus the dishwasher, which you fill once and that's all you need. So you have a much smaller amount of detergent, and overall it saves you a lot of money in the long run. Regarding some of the mistakes that people make with dishwashers, now that we know that using a dishwasher saves more money and it's better than hand washing, it's better for the environment, we're going to talk about how to properly maintain and use them. So the most common issue is going to be not using rinse aid. So this is my second Cascade video about rinse aid and what that is and what it does.
Hi, my name is Renee, and I'm an appliance repair tech. Have you ever had glassware that came out of your dishwasher still wet or with water spots all over them? That's probably because you weren't using a rinse aid, like Cascade Power Dry Rinse Aid, for example. So what the heck is a rinse aid? After dishwasher detergent takes care of the food on your dishes during the wash cycle, rinse aid is what your dishwasher uses during the rinse cycle to have your dishes dry better and without spots by using science. Cascade Rinse Aid 3-in-1 dries, shines, and prevents spots by using a scientific phenomenon called Marangoni stress. Basically, a tiny amount of Cascade Rinse Aid mixes with the water in your dishwasher, which alters the surface tension and causes the water to easily sheet off of your glassware rather than forming droplets that stick and can cause water spots. Since the water is coming off more easily, there's also a lot less of it to dry, so your glassware dries more quickly and is super shiny. Using Cascade Rinse Aid is also super easy. You just refill the Rinse Aid dispenser in your dishwasher about once a week. Oh, and my personal favorite feature of Cascade Rinse Aid, the Easy Pour Spout. That might sound a little strange, but if you know, you know. Check out the link in my bio to learn more.
So as I mentioned in the video, rinse aid, it reduces the surface tension of water. So normally water wants to stick to your glassware. And a lot of times when people say my dishes are coming out with spots on them, that's what's happening is all of the like minerals in your water. Once the water evaporates and dries, you're left with those minerals on your glassware.
Okay.
So rinse aid is going to help your dishes dry a lot faster because the water sheets off instead of sticking to it.
Okay.
And it's also going to prevent those spots. So very, very important that people use rinse aid. And almost every single time I go out to a house where the problem description for the dishwasher says dishwasher not drying dishes, almost every single time it's because people are not using rinse aid.
Nice.
Yeah.
Duly
So
noted.
super.
Yeah. Duly noted.
Oh, for sure.
I've been guilty of that. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And I know a lot of people are. Another really big one is pre-rinsing dishes. You do not have to wash your dishes before you wash your dishes.
What?
So if you are pre-rinsing your dishes, it can confuse the sensors. So that turbidity sensor that I was mentioning that measures to see how much yuck is in your water, it can confuse the sensor into thinking your dishes are clean because the sensor isn't seeing enough particles in the water if you pre-rinse everything off of them. So that can make half of the dishes be like a little bit dirty and half of them be okay. It can cause all sorts of like weird stuff just in terms of not being able to predict how your dishwasher is going to work properly. Dishwasher detergent is also enzyme based. So enzymes are what's in your stomach to help you digest food. And dishwasher detergent is also enzyme based. So if you don't have enough stuff on your dishes for those enzymes to eat, they will start to eat away at other things, which can mean the parts in your dishwasher.
Whoa, okay.
So you don't want to pre-rinse the dishes. Instead of pre-rinsing, you just want to scrape anything off that's larger than the size of a grain of rice. And I specify a grain of rice because the holes in those spray arms, little spinny things, are usually around the size of a grain of rice.
Okay.
So anything that size or larger, you just want to scrape that off either into garbage or into a compost, but leave the rest on there, and it will absolutely help your dishwasher wash a lot better, which sounds weird, but that's the way that sensor works. Another really big one, similar to pretty much every other appliance, is never cleaning your dishwasher. So if you're not cleaning your dishwasher, it can make your dishwasher smell bad, which is, pretty straightforward. Everybody figures that one out. Can make your dishwasher smell bad. It can also redeposit food onto your dishes. And it's also going to cause a buildup. So similar to, washing machine, everything else, same kind of concept. If you aren't cleaning the cleaning machine,
Right.
some of the stuff that winds up going through the cleaning machine sticks around, and it can start to break stuff. It can start to leave residue on your dishes and things like that. So you want to run a dishwasher cleaner through about once a month, and most dishwashers also have drain pump filters in them. If you don't know where your drain pump filter is, you can always Google your model number to find your manual if you don't still have a copy of it. And they will show you exactly where that filter is and how to clean it and how often they suggest cleaning it out.
Sure.
So super important that you're cleaning all of the cleaning machines. As for refrigerators, the average person in North America generates between $1,300 to $3,000 of food waste every year.
Wow.
And there was a survey done in the November 2019 issue it's a research journal called Resources Conservation and Recycling. So in this survey, participants purchased groceries and they were asked to guess how much of that food they would end up consuming versus wasting before the food went bad. So the excerpts that I highlighted here says survey participants expected to eat 97% of the meat in their refrigerators, but really finished only about half. They thought they'd eat 94% of their vegetables, but consumed about 44%. They projected they'd eat about 71% of the fruit, 84% of the dairy, but finished off just 40% and 42% respectively. So obviously, it's kind of that whole like your eyes are bigger than your stomach thing. A lot of people wind up wasting a lot of food. So one of the biggest factors in that is forgetting that the food is in the fridge. Because I know that I'm certainly guilty of that. I could not tell you all the things that are in my fridge currently. But if you know what's in the fridge, it's going to help you not waste as much of that food because you know what's in the fridge and you know how long it's been theoretically in there. But out of sight, out of mind. If you don't know that it's there, you're not going to know that it's there usually until it goes bad and you can smell it.
Yep.
So if you're overfilling your fridge, that can cause that to happen because you're not able to see everything. And if your fridge is unorganized, same idea. So if you can just try to organize your fridge the best that you can, there are plenty of TikToks of people organizing refrigerators. That's not something that I personally do. That's not the kind of content that I create, but there's so many resources online for like really great ideas on how to organize your fridge so that you can access everything better, so that you can see everything better.
Sure.
And if it's more organized and you can see where everything is and you can remember that you have these foods, you're a lot less likely to waste a lot of the stuff that you purchase.
Right.
So
Just Marie Kondo your
money.
fridge. If it doesn't spark
Yeah,
joy, you
exactly.
just throw it out, right?
Does this food bring me joy?
Exactly.
My problem is I love food, so I'd be like, yes.
Me
all
too.
of it,
Yeah.
all
I
of
mean,
it.
I'd end up keeping everything, but whatever.
Exactly.
At least I know it's there because I go through it once in a while.
Absolutely. So instead, you do want to try to keep your fridge organized as best you can. And you also want to try to keep it around 75% full. So 75%, it's kind of same numbers as washing machines, somewhere
Okay.
between halfway and 3/4 of the way full is best. If your fridge is over full, Obviously, you're not going to be able to find everything. It can also restrict the airflow in your fridge. So your fridge relies on airflow. You
Okay.
have refrigerant pumping through it, but you also have fans that circulate the air in order to keep everything the right temperature. If you have too much in your fridge and you're restricting that airflow, that cold air can't get to everything. So if your fridge is over full, sometimes you'll have an issue where it's not cooling properly. Similarly, if your fridge is under full, you don't have a whole lot of food in there. Since your fridge relies on airflow, but air doesn't hold cold very well, the second you open the door, if you don't have a whole lot of food in there, all of that cold air is going to escape.
Right.
If you have food in your fridge, the food kind of acts like it helps keep everything else cold.
Sure, like a
because your
buffer.
food holds that cold.
Sure.
So rather than the air just going out, you have the solid food in your fridge that helps hold the cold in there. So that's important not to overfill, also important not to underfill.
So if I tend to have the problem where, like, sometimes in the back of my fridge, food seems to freeze up a little, that might be overfill?
So if food is freezing, a lot of times it's because it's sitting right in front of the vents.
Okay.
Because if you have that airflow going through, it's got to
Right.
come from somewhere.
Okay.
So a lot of times it'll be right in front of a vent hole.
Right.
I know, like in my fridge, if I put my eggs, because I have one of the simple fridges, it's got the freezer on the top, fridge on the bottom, because I rent and that's what they give me.
Boom.
So because it has the freezer on top, fridge on the bottom, all of the air comes from the freezer and it blows into the fridge, and it's usually from this one spot that's very close to the top shelf. So if I have my eggs or like my leafy greens, stuff that's really more susceptible to freezing, on the top shelf, especially towards the back, because it's right near that vent, it will freeze.
Okay. So it's just
So,
about
solution to that
strategic
is just, like,
placement.
be aware of where those vent holes are.
Okay.
And try not to put stuff that's more likely to freeze in front of them.
Sure.
And if you have a problem with like overfilling your fridge, or you have like way too much food in your fridge, and like you have a really big fridge, so it's difficult to be able to keep stuff organized and still find everything because the fridge is just so large that stuff gets hidden. A really, really good little bonus tip from my partner, actually, because he does this. If you have a really big fridge like that, you can keep a little fridge inventory on a whiteboard, because you can get a magnetic whiteboard. Just attach that to your fridge.
There you go.
And then you can write what's inside of your fridge and you can erase it as you go.
Boom.
So really, really handy little thing that helps a lot. It's it's a little bit of work, but if you don't want to have to physically deal with organizing your fridge, you can at least keep an inventory, and that way it's a lot less work, but you know what's inside of it.
Perfect.
So never cleaning behind your fridge is also a really, really big one. So, obviously a lot of this stuff is like cleaning stuff, but cleaning stuff does make a difference in a lot of cases. If you don't clean the coils behind your fridge, that picture is what people refer to as the coils a lot of times on the fridge. That's the hot part of your fridge. So if you have a coating of dust over it, your fridge is going to have to work overtime. It's going to use a lot more electricity in order to maintain that cold temperature. So you do want to make sure that you're cleaning back there. It's going to use too much electricity. It can also hide things like leaks. So if you're not pulling out your fridge regularly to just inspect behind it, it can hide a lot of issues. Many refrigerator water leaks aren't discovered until they leak through the floor and into the ceiling of the room below it.
Wow.
And then by that point, there is so much water damage that, it's a very, very big issue. So if you're pulling your fridge out once a year, it can allow you to catch a problem before it becomes a disaster.
Right.
And same thing goes for rodents and pests. There are a lot of ways that rodents and pests can really damage your appliances.
Yeah.
They like to chew through things that they hear water running through. A lot of times they'll chew on wires, especially because stuff is just warm, so they like it. If you're not pulling out your fridge once a year, you might miss the early warning signs of like mice and things like that, because they like to hide in the dark, quiet corners that nobody ever goes into. So behind your fridge is a really good one for them.
Right.
So very important that you are pulling that out once a year, just to vacuum all the dust out and to inspect behind it for any leaks or any kind of damage or bugs or anything like that. So that's all I got for fridges. When it comes to ranges, which is going to be the last appliance I'm going to talk about, So a range is an oven and cooktop combo. If you're not familiar with that term, I know I wasn't before I became an appliance tech, but they call it a range, which is what most people have. There's only one really big mistake that a lot of people make with that, and I have a video talking exactly
Do not
about
use
that.
the self-clean function on your oven. Hi, my name is Renee. I'm an appliance repair tech, and yes, you heard that right. If your oven has the option for a self-clean, do not use it. Now, to be clear, I am specifically talking about the type of self-clean that gets really, really hot in order to burn all of the food debris off. If your range has the type of clean where you add a little bit of water into it and steam helps loosen everything up at a lower temperature, that kind is fine. But when I say that that first type gets really, really hot, I'm talking like 900 degrees Fahrenheit plus hot. Because in addition to burning the food remnants off the inside of your oven, self-clean can also bake in certain foods and stain your oven, unalive small animals, especially birds, cause a house fire, cause up to third-degree burns even from touching the outside of the oven during a self-clean, and even damage parts of the oven, including but not limited to shattering the glass door, frying the control board, or melting the door lock shut. These photos were sent to me by my friend and moderator, Dave, who is also an appliance repair tech. This is Dave's customer's wall oven that they had run a self-clean on the bottom oven. Self-clean made their oven get so hot that it started melting the electronics inside, and it caught fire. The customer said she had to use her fire extinguisher for the first time in 30 years, and she even had to call the fire department because it was shooting flames out of the center. Dave did say that on the plus side, her lower oven was very clean. However, it will never turn on again, and it is not even worth fixing. So if self-clean is so dangerous, why does it still exist? Due to the lack of knowledge of the dangers of self-clean, it is still a very big selling point to consumers. If a range doesn't have self-clean, people are less likely to purchase it. Additionally, all the manufacturers put warnings inside of the manual talking about the dangers of self-clean to avoid any legal issues in the manuals that most people never read. And every time I talk about this, I have people in my comment section saying that they've been using self-clean for years with no issues. And to those people, I am so happy that you've never had an issue, but anecdotal evidence doesn't prove that that never happens. Plus, is it really worth playing house fire roulette? In part 2, I'll talk about my recommendations for alternatives to self-clean, but whatever you do,
And that video loops back around to saying, don't use a self-clean on your oven.
I feel so terrible about having used that function a lot. Wow.
And a lot of people do because it's an option on your
Yeah.
oven and you want to keep it clean so you think you're doing the right thing. This is like the one exception to me saying like, read your manual, trust your manual, do everything in the manual. That's the one exception is self-clean because I don't like that feature. I don't know a single appliance technician that does. When it comes to like big cooking holidays, Thanksgiving, Christmas, stuff like that, that is the number one call that we go out to in usually like a week or two before that big cooking holiday, because those people are cleaning their ovens because they don't want their oven to look bad for the relatives that are coming over.
Okay, sure.
So if it overheats, there is a little sensor on your oven that its entire job is to detect if the temperature gets too high. And self-clean a lot of times gets so hot that it trips that sensor. And if that sensor gets tripped, it'll either cut power to your oven or it will lock it shut. So
Wow.
we get a lot of calls before these big cooking holidays because people are saying, my range, I did a self-clean and now I have no power right before Thanksgiving. So really, really important. I don't suggest doing self-clean. I will talk, I know at the end of that video, I said in part 2, I'll talk about alternatives. I have an alternative method for sure. So regarding self-clean though, obviously very big fire hazard. It can also, damage parts of the oven. So big fire hazard, it can damage parts. It also uses a lot of electricity. So the self-clean cycle on an oven uses about 8 kilowatt hours of electricity, which is equivalent to using your oven for an entire month.
Wow.
So lots of electricity to get it that hot. It can also create fumes and carbon monoxide that can exacerbate health issues in humans. In the manual, a lot of times it'll say, make sure you do this in a ventilated room. Make sure you open the window. Like they tell you in the book just how volatile this is just based on all the directions that they give you. And it does have the potential to kill small animals, especially birds. A lot of manuals will say, keep birds in a different room. It's the whole canary in a coal mine thing because they have itty bitty little lungs. So we can take, a little bit of the fumes that come off that. But a bird with the itty bitty bitty lungs can't really handle that. And sometimes people's pets, like lizards or like very small dogs, they have been, either had health issues because of people running self-clean, or they have died.
Wow.
So I cannot stand self-clean. I hate that it's still an option. Instead of doing the self-clean, the really hot self-clean, you can do a steam clean instead. So the industry as a whole is starting to move away from the hot self-clean in favor of steam clean. So some brands, Whirlpool is the one that I see the most common. They have a steam clean option. So you actually put water into the bottom. They have it designed so that it has like a little, almost like a basin in the bottom that you can put water into. And it's going to heat at a lower temperature, but it's going to create steam. So it's really easy to loosen everything up and get everything off of the inside. Steam clean also uses a lot less energy. So it's going to use about 3 kilowatt hours of energy versus the 8 kilowatt hours of energy that a self clean would have used. It's going to be gentler on the parts, and it's going to just help overall. Cleaning is still important. Like cleaning your oven is still important because it can help your oven heat more quickly and more evenly. But I would always suggest doing the steam clean instead of the self clean. I do also have a link on my website that goes to Whirlpool's website, where they have instructions on how to steam clean your oven, even if you don't have that steam clean cycle.
Okay, right.
So my website has all the information on it. It's a lot of instructions, so it didn't really make sense to go in the presentation. But so although a lot of the information I've mentioned about all these appliances today might seem new to a lot of you, the majority of it can be found in the user manuals. So most of what I teach is stuff that is in the manuals. One of the biggest issues, obviously, that I run into in my line of work is customer education. I have had thousands of customers over the last 6 years whose appliances have failed just due to improper care and maintenance.
Sure.
And all of the manuals are available online. You Google your model number, and they're pretty easy to find. Model numbers are on a sticker somewhere on the appliance. Usually it's pretty easy to find too. You just open it and it'll be like inside of a door, or like on the inside of the body or something like that. But knowing how to maintain and care for your appliances is not only going to save you money, it's going to have a positive impact on the environment, and just in general going to do better for you overall. These are also a few helpful websites. So these are going to be great for finding more information about high efficiency appliances and how they're going to work better for you. Cascade link there is all of their information on how dishwashers use a lot less water and stuff like that. So really good resources there. And then the QR code there is for my website, which is just renda.com. And then I also have my email down there as well. But yeah, that's my long
great.
presentation.
Thank you, Renee. Before I have a few questions, but before that, I want to remind our viewers that you can drop questions in the Q&A box in French or in English, and we will be selecting a few of those for our guest shortly. But I do have a question or two for you right now. First of all, how important is brand when appliance shopping?
So the brand itself isn't necessarily what's the most important. Biggest question that I get asked is, what brands do you recommend? And I don't recommend brands in general. Like I don't have a specific brand, because all of the information that I have is biased, because I only ever see the broken ones. Right. And I also work for what's called a servicing dealer. So my company has showrooms where they sell the appliances that I, as part of the service department, will service. So I only see the brands that my company sells. And I'm also, if my company sells more of a certain brand, statistically speaking, I'm going to see that brand more, regardless of if it's a good or a bad brand. And if my company doesn't sell what people consider to be the best brand, I would never see it. Okay. So I would have no idea. Right. I usually tell people the best way to figure out what's going to work for you is look at the reviews, but sort the reviews by most recent. Okay. So sort them by most recent. That way you can see, if there was an issue that they resolved at some point, they did a revision or something. Sure. You're going to weed out all of the older reviews that might have been bad before it was fixed. But you can see the most recent issues that people are having. And if you see people saying the exact same thing over and over and over and over again, you can kind of get a good idea of like, okay, that's definitely an issue with this model.
Right on. Okay, thank you. We have some viewer questions. Is washing the washer agitator plate, is removing that a DIY project, or would the cleaners remove dirt from a neglected washer?
So the washing machine cleaners are going to do that for you. I don't suggest that people remove that agitator plate because most of them have a little cap on it that just snaps into place. And if you break one of the clips on it, it's going to expose the bolt. Exposing the bolt isn't going to hurt anything because it's used to being submerged, but it can damage your clothing if it rubs against that. That bolt a lot of times can get seized as well. So I have, oddly enough, I have a scar right here on my nose from trying to remove one of those plates because it was very, very stuck. So, and that's, you know, me, I do this all the time. And even I can make mistakes every once in a while, hurt myself and get a scar on my nose. But I don't suggest removing that plate because the washing machine cleaners work.
Renee can pull off that scar, we can't. So don't do it yourself. Another question. Do the newer washers or dryers have surge protection for the sensors, like for when the power goes out?
That's going to be more on the house side of things. So they have, they don't have a whole lot of like bells and whistles in terms of surge protection. If you want to plug your washer or dryer into a surge protector, that's totally fine as long as it's rated for things like appliances. Because when you get into like extension cords and things like that, they have different ratings. And if you get one that's not rated for appliances, it's really not going to help. But plugging your appliances into a surge protector, never a bad thing.
Right on. How eco-friendly is Rinse-Aid and how harmful might it be to the human body?
So Rinse-Aid does not actually wind up staying on your dishes. In terms of eco-friendliness, I would have to look into it a little bit more, but Rinse-Aid only dispenses a couple of drops every cycle, and that mixes with the water. So it stays in the water itself, but not on the dishes because, again, it's slicking right off of the dishes. So it's not putting a coating onto the dishes to get the water to come off. It's mixing with the water so that the water doesn't stick to the dishes.
Right. Well, thank you again very much, Renee, for this very useful information about maintaining, using properly our appliances to help make them work longer for us and save energy and extend their life usage. So thank you very much, Renee. Again, thank you to Renee Duhame for joining us all the way from Connecticut. Thank you also to Elisa Casey for being with us